Hello everybody. Today we shall discuss the acquisition and process of learning and how the learning takes place, what are the problems faced by the learners and factors influencing a learner, and how a teacher should strive hard to give the guidance to the pupil. Friends, as we know, learning is the basic concern of a teacher. A question that makes every teacher think is why the extent of learning is different for different individuals. An understanding of the factors affecting learning, it is considered to be unnatural in the absence of the context in which learning is or is not taking place. To avoid the artificiality in presentation, I mean the presentation of teaching in the classroom and the form of cases and how the presentation of teaching should go according to the background, the factors of the learning. As a counselor, a teacher should plan a proper guidance services. Let us take the background of an elementary school. Saraswati Nagar is a small city in the Janaganga district. This small city has witnessed a rapid growth due to the government decision to finance and set up electronic industries in the area under the Electronic Industries Development Board. As a result, the city dwellers are a mixed population of socio-economic groups ranging from the poor daily wage earners to the well-to-do industrialists. Janata Vidyalaya is one among the 18 elementary schools in the city. The school has classes from kindergarten to standard 7. The academic staff of the school consists of the headmaster, the assistant headmaster, and a total of 14 teachers. It is due to the professional approach of the teachers under the dedicated leadership of the headmaster that the school has made a name in the city as the best school instead of a selective approach to admission of students. The school has been admitting students on a random basis. One day after the classes had begun, the following four teachers who were free were present in the staff room, and the discussion is like that. There are four teachers. My name Chandrakant, Suresh, Najir Ahmad, and Vibha. Let us have the discussion. Chandrakant sir replied that he is age about 35 years in a physical education, and he is a physical education department. That's he's a physical education teacher. He also teaches the regional language. He is well known for his social work related activities. He has a strange combination of humor and discipline. Coming to the Suresh, aged about 28, has joined the school only 2 years ago. As a mathematics teacher, he has always been logical in thought and work. Nazir Ahmad, aged about 30, is a localite, befitting his job as the teacher of environmental studies. He occasionally conducts nature study camps for the benefits of the students of Janata Vidyalaya. Vibha, aged about 38 years, is the drawing teacher of the school. She also is a localite and is given the additional charge of organizing activities of the parent teacher association of the school. As a result, she is quite well versed with a large number of pets. Now, let us take a case. Suresh, the mathematics teacher, was busy in evaluating the answer papers of the test he had conducted the previous day. Seeing that he was not participating in the discussion, Chandrakant asked him what was he busy with. Subsequently, the discussion went on something like this. Suresh told that, good, that you have asked me that question. I wanted to discuss with you people about the girl by name Mary De Silva, and he took her answer paper. Chandrakant, sir, wait a minute. Are you thinking about that student in the fourth standard or the one who is in the second? Suresh, I'm talking about Mary De Silva, the one who is in fourth. You know that she stood first in the earlier classes, but I am finding that she is not as careful now. Najir sir told that. What make you say that? Suresh, in this last two tests, she scored only 7 out of 10 and 6 out of 10 marks, and now again she has made some silly mistakes. And he showed her paper also. She has written down the question itself wrongly in two problems. How can I consider a correctly solved problem for a question which I have not asked? You replied, you mean to say that she has written down question wrongly but solved it correctly? Suresh told that yes, even though I know that she is very neat in work and is always interested in studies, I fail to understand why she not careful in the examination. Chandrakant sir told that because it is your test. Everybody laughed at him. Yuha, is it only so in her test performance or is it also in her classwork? Suresh replied that I have observed this in her class work also. Chandrakant replied by laughing, that means her tuition master is not doing his work properly. Yuha replied that no sir, she is guided by her parents only. Chandrakant sir told that I was merely joking, madam, but I have observed her continuously rub her eyes during games, and on some days she even had to discontinue play due to headache. A language teacher enters at the moment by name Arvindan, and he replied that, are you all talking about Mary De Silva? Nazir replied that yes, she is a fine student. Chandrakant said, this means for the staff meeting tomorrow, this would be the main point of the agenda. Other expressed the same agreement. Headmaster on the next day opened up the meeting and he invited the agendas. Headmaster told that I'm talking about the case of Mary De Silva first because her parents had met me recently in this connection because all teachers complained about her. And the headmaster also replied that to Suresh, her mother was particularly angry that Mary had wrongly written down the questions. Tell us whether there was anyone else in your class who had also committing the same mistakes. Suresh replied that yes, there were 3 to 4 students who are committing the same mistakes. So headmaster replied that it means I have to discuss with her parents as well as the parents of all the students. Vibha replied that poor girl, she is no smile on her face. I think she is the youngest in her class. Chandrakant sir told that yes, of course, she was not even 5 when she joined the first standard, and the previous headmaster had considerable difficulty in convincing her parents that she was too young for admitting the class. Now the question is, so what do you think is the reason for Mary's deteriorating performance? Is it that she is inattentive? Is that she is having difficulties due to poor eyesight? Is it that she has not been getting enough attention at school and home? Or is it that she has no requirements? So these are the things always dwelling upon the students, students and teachers in the process of teaching learning process. Now, learning is influenced by several factors. The influence on learning could be favorable or unfavorable depending on the factors. Thus, good teaching or continuous studying without any time being spent on other activities may not ensure learning. There seems to be a general tendency to presume that scoring well in an examination is the only indicator of learning. Learning itself could be of different kinds. Some of the factors are easily identified as influencing learning, while others may best be guessed to have an influence. Also, it is likely that some factors are not easily dissembled. Often, a learning problem is the result of combined influence of several variables. Thereby, the orientation to the teachers and students is necessary. The remediation of the problem requires the strategy to be comprehensive in coverage of factors. Now, let us see the classification of factors. Physiological factors. Among the organ factors considered to cause learning problems are genetics, brain injury, biochemical imbalances, intake of toxic substances like lead, oxygen deprivation, infectious diseases, drug intoxication, malnutrition, and congenital defects. While considering these as factors influencing learning, it may be mentioned that attempts to correlate specific physiological factors with learning problems are not successful. Another important factor that affects learning is maturation. Unless the body is physiologically mature and ready, academic learning cannot take place. Now let us see psychological factors. Several psychological factors such as intelligence, personality, attitude, interest, and aptitude have considerable influence on the learning of the child. Apart from these, motivation, self-concept, readiness is a necessity. Often learns to read with little instruction, whereas seriously retarded readers tend to be aggressive or to withdraw, to feel insecure and apprehension. A child's learning is influenced by his or her concept of himself or herself. A child's attention cannot be demanded. It is said to be byproduct of interest and maturity. Socio-emotional factors. The family the child belongs to has a considerable influence on their learning. Family factors such as child rearing practices, reward and punishment, scope for freedom and independence in activities, play and study facilities, ambitiousness of the parents, disorganization and discord among members, degree of maturity expected of the boy or the girl child, birth positions such as eldest, youngest, or single child have their definite influence on learning. A child who comes from a very poor family and never had an intellectual stimulation at home remains dull and unresponsive in the class. In some cultures, there is a strong sex role bias. Girls are directly or indirectly told that education is not meant for them. In a similar way, some caste groups in our country have hidden messages like education is not meant for us or our children cannot study. This apathy to education may pose problems for the child in learning. Educational factors. Learning problems may occur because of inadequate or inappropriate teaching. Overcrowding classrooms is another contributing factor. In some big cities, houses are converted into English medium schools. In small rooms, 60 to 70 children are made to sit and are unable to benefit from a highly verbal instruction. In rural areas, the problem is one of the adequate facilities such as classrooms, blackboards, and sometimes even teachers. Bilingualism and multilingualism is also a factor influencing learning. Let us take environmental factors. The condition of the sitting in the classrooms as well as setting where the learning process takes place can also enhance or interfere in intake of information. If the rooms are not well ventilated, the lighting poor, the space cramped, the environment excessively noisy or surroundings polluted, then there will be interference in the child's learning. For the body will be more concerned with protecting itself than procuring more knowledge. Apart from these general factors, there are certain other elements of the learning task that determine how soon and for how long a task is learned. These may be termed as the laws of learning. Now let us see these laws of learning. Law of use. Practice or use of any response strengthens it. Law of disuse. Any response not used for a long time is likely to be forgotten. Law of primacy. All things being equal, the acts performed first or things learned first are likely to be remembered longer. Law of recency. The more recent the exercise, the stronger is its memory. Law of readiness. If the nerve's pathway is ready for action, the response quickly follows. Law of effect. A successful reaction that gives satisfaction is more likely to be learned and repeated than that action which is painful. Now, children learn best when they are mature enough and ready to learn, when they have no physiological or physical impairments, when they feel confident that they can learn, and what they are learning is meaningful to them and has a practical significance to them. These things help us for guiding the students. Now, specifically see what is this learning. Learning is one of the most important and pervasive activities of human life. Since birth, we are always learning something or the other. This includes language learning at a younger age, learning habits, skills, postures and gestures, likes and dislikes, preferences, knowledge, meanings, value systems, and finally learning to adapt to diverse situations of life. What is the nature of learning? Let us see the nature of learning with the day-to-day examples. Number one, Sunita was a student of grade 4. she experienced considerable difficulty with a series of homework assignments in mathematics, particularly in subtraction. She was not able to solve 2 and 3 digit subtraction problems correctly. One day, after her typical half an hour tantrum about these stupid problems, her father explained that subtraction is nothing more than reversed addition. Something must have clicked in Sunita's head because her father has not been subjected to any more tantrums about subtraction. One more example. The mother of a 9-year-old boy, Sohan, insists that her son should bring milk daily from the milk booth. In turn, mother gives him some money. The money, when saved for 2 or 3 weeks, enables the boy to purchase things of his own choice. As a result, he develops an appreciation of the value of money. Now, on the basis of the examples, shall we describe the nature of learning? One thing is clear that learning refers to the change in behavior. There was an observable change in Sunita's behavior as she did not disturb her parents for solving subtraction problems afterwards. In the third example, the mother wanted to inculcate some household responsibilities in the child. This is not a third example, this is a second example. For this, she rewarded each time the milk bringing behavior of the child. It means that change in behavior is due to practice. Furthermore, in order to bring the desired change in behavior, it is essential that reinforcement is given each time the child exhibits the desired change in behavior. In behavioral terms, learning can be described as establishing association between stimulus and response. What is not learning? All human or animal behaviors are not learned, nor does their expression require any effort on the part of individual. Very simple. Behaviors are known as reflex actions. For example, sneezing when something enters in the nose, sudden withdrawal of hand when it accidentally touches a hot plate, increase in heartbeat while climbing. These are all innate behaviors. For complex behaviors known as instincts are also innate. The examples of instinctive behaviors are nest building by birds, migration of birds from one place to another in a particular season. Hibernation and mating behavior, instinctive behaviors are species specific. These are certain changes in the behavior that can be associated with the normal growth of individuals and are related to maturation. Now coming to the theories of learning. Let us see, before going to theories of learning, a simple definitions of learning. Learning is a relatively permanent change in behavior due to experience. Learning is a relatively permanent change in mental association due to experience. There are few theories. There are theories, psychological theories, which explain the learning process. There may be similarities in learning or dissimilarities in the learning. Let us see. The definition reflects the perspective of a group of theories collectively known as behaviorism. What is behavior? We came to know it is a sort of change. These theories focus on the learning of tangible, observable behavior or responses such as solving a subtraction problem, running to the mother after seeing a dog, expressing different types of emotions on different occasions, or complaining about stomachache to avoid going to school. The second definition focuses on a change in mental associations, an internal change that cannot be observed. This definition reflects the perspective of a group of theories collectively known as cognitive theories. Now, behavioristic view. The first psychological perspective to have a significant impact on our understanding of how human beings learn was behaviorism. That is, environment plays an important role in shaping the personality characteristics of individuals. Therefore, rather than using the term learning, behaviorists often talk about conditioning. An organism is conditioned by environmental events. What is learned being largely the results of one's past and present experiences is often beyond an organism's control. It can be further mentioned that conditioning is a specific term used to describe the process of behavioral change. There are two types: classical conditioning and instrumental or operant conditioning. Now, let us take classical conditioning. It is very important that when individual respond to other stimuli in the same way and they respond to conditional stimuli, stimulus generation is occurring. Now let us take one example. Amit is a student of class 5th. He received several painful bee stings when he was young, when he was young. Now, whenever a bee flies near Amit, he screams, waves his arms frantically, and becomes mad. Though he knows that he would be perfectly better off if bee remained still, but somehow he just cannot control himself. Let us take one more example. Neha was admitted to class 3rd about a month ago. After joining the class, she found that her maths teacher is very tough, scolds, and the children, her teacher, very tough, scolds the children and beats them very often. Once Neha was also subjected to this treatment. Thereafter, it has so happened that whenever her maths teacher enters into the class, Neha becomes nervous even if she is not scolded or beaten by the teacher. Now the thing is, if we carefully analyze both examples, you will find that past experience plays an important role in determining what the individual will learn. And once the organism has experienced that situation, on the next occasion, the site of the situation produces that response in the organism. A child, after returning home from school, becomes very happy to know that his father has returned home from work early. Because on earlier occasions, whenever his father came home early, he brought some good sweets to eat. As a result, the child has associated early return of his father with sweets. So, an experiment on classical conditioning was for the first time conducted by Pavlov on dogs. Pavlov's experiment can be better understood with very important steps. Neutral, that is a bell when he bells stimulus that leads to no response. Unconditioned food stimulus, unconditioned response, salivate. Step 2, association of A and B. Conditioned stimulus, well, conditioned response, salivate. Here, because of the association of the sound of the bell with food, the dog has learned to respond to the sound of the bell. But remember, the dog treats the sound of the bell as an indicator of food. If on several occasions when the food is not presented with the sound of the bell, after some time dog will not respond to the bell sound. This is known as extinction of the learned behavior, that is withholding of unconditional stimulus reduces the probability of conditioned response. There are few other characteristics of classical conditioning, namely spontaneous recovery, stimulus generalization, and stimulus discrimination. Spontaneous recovery is the recurrence of a conditioned response when a period of extinction is following by a rest period. Now let us see operant conditioning. In operant conditioning, increase or decrease in the likelihood that behavior will occur is affected by delivery of a rewarding or punishing event after the behavior occurs. It is usually voluntary, not reflex like as in classical conditioning. In the case of classical conditioning, we have seen that when food is presented, the organism responds to it, that is salivate. It means that the reward makes an individual active. It may also mean that individuals are passive enough to wait for the situation in which reward will automatically come to them. They themselves will not do anything to get the reward. We, however, know that the latter proposition is not true for higher order organisms, including human beings. We actively operate upon the situation so as it becomes rewarding. In case of classical conditioning, the behavior is elicited by stimulus, while in operant conditioning, the behavior is emitted by the organism. In the first case, reinforcement is a condition for behavior, while response is followed by reinforcement in the later. B.F. Skinner, a noted behaviorist, gave the model of operant conditioning. Skinner conducted the experiment on rats. Rats, when placed in a box, could press the lever and thus open the door of the box, come out of box and eat food. On the first attempt, the rat does not know what to do. As a result, it jumps in the box several times, and by chance, when it falls on the, when it falls on the lever, the door is opened. Slowly and slowly, the rats learn that in order to get food, they need to press the lever. According to Skinner, a response that is followed by reinforcer is strengthened and is therefore more likely to occur again. In other words, responses that are reinforced tend to increase in frequency because a response increase is a change in behavior. A behaviorist would assume that reinforcement brings about learning. Skinner found that rats will learn to press metal bars and pigeons will peck at a round plastic disc to get pellets of food. Likewise, Tina will increase her housekeeping behavior if it allows her to see a friend, and so on. Will do just about anything if the price is right. The infant will smile and respond more if it gains the attention and approval of adults around her. Since the theory of operant conditioning is totally based upon reinforcement, it would be appropriate if we have a glance over silent characters of reinforcement. So far, we have been using the terms reward and reinforcement interchangeably. Now, we will avoid using the term reward for the reason that the word reward implies that the consequence following a behavior is somehow both pleasant and desirable. We can say that reinforcer is a stimulus that increase or decrease the frequency of a response it follows. Depending upon the administration of reinforcement, four different procedures of reinforcement have been identified. They are positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, punishment, and extinction. A positive reinforcement is something which, when added to the situation by a certain response, increase the probability of occurrence of that response. A child's independent play is said to be reinforced when it increases as a result of his or her parents giving praise and attention when he or she plays. A negative reinforcer, on the other hand, is something not conducive to the organism in the process of learning, such as an aversive high pitched tone, an electric shock, extreme cold or heat, social loneliness, etc. Negative reinforcement is therefore removal of an already operating aversive stimulus. Punishment refers to the removal of something positive from the situation or adding something negative to the situation. Extinction refers to the removal of a reinforcer that is helpful in increasing or sustaining a behavior. This is generally used to remove undesirable behavior from the behavioral response or repertoire of a child. It is based on the principle pay no attention to undesirable behaviors. There are three important conditions for operant conditioning to take place, and effectiveness of operant conditioning depends on magnitude, that is greater the reward greater effect. Contiguity, that is reinforcer must follow response. Schedules of consequence, that is interval or ratio. Related to it as an important concept of shape. Parents and teachers, as suggested by Skinner, can shape, inculcate any behavior among children with the appropriate use of reinforcement. This method is also known as method of successive approximations. To shape a particular behavior, we begin by reinforcing the first response that in any way approximates the desired behavior and continue for reinforcing that response until the organism emits it fairly and frequently. Cognitive view of learning. One major thinker in cognitive psychology has been Jean Piaget, who proposed learning to be the result of exploration and insight of the individual. Another theorist, Vygotsky, however, viewed learning as a product of interaction between the child and the other in the process of problem solving. From the environment, the learner receives stimulation which activities and activates his or her receptors and is transferred to neural information. When the teacher writes on the blackboard, here the stimuli in the environment, it is received by the sensory receptors, that is eye, and the message is sent to the brain through nerve cells. Initially, this information enters structures called the sensory register. The information in the short-term memory persists for a limited period, generally thought to be up to 20 seconds. The capacity of short-term memory is also limited. An interesting property of short-term memory is its ability to carry out a silent mental repetition of the information, a process called rehearsal. From the standpoint of learning, the most critical transformation occurs when it leaves short memory and enters the long-term memory. This process is called encoding. The encoded information is stored in the memory for a considerable time period. What is stored in memory may become inaccessible due to various reasons. For example, the information may decay due to time, interference between newer and older memories, etc. Learning, thus, is a process which begins with the environment inputs which is worked upon by the brain and then used as deemed fit. Observation learning. Almost every day, we see instances of people watching others and learning from them. Little boys often emulate hero figures like Superman and Chacha Chaudhary through watching and copying one another. Pre-adolescent girls often begin to behave in similar ways, such as dressing alike and wearing their hair in very faddish style. I repeat, in faddish style. Children imitate their parents by developing similar hobbies and interests, by expressing similar political and religious beliefs, and by eventually raising their own children using the same disciplinary techniques used on them. Many skills acquired at school, including reading and writing, are learned at least partly through watching and imitating what one's teachers and peers do. The learning by observation and modeling is the focus of social learning theory. The principles of social learning theory are as people can and the people can the people learn by observing. The people can learn by observing the behaviors of others and the outcomes of those behaviors. Behavior of others means models, modes of their behavior. Learning and performance are distinct from each other. In other words, the child may know how to solve the addition problems but may not be able to do so for several reasons such as fear, the environment may not be conducive, etc. That point, reinforcement plays an important role in learning. Fourth one, cognitive processes play a role in learning. More importantly, social learning has to incorporate such cognitive processes as attention and retention. Retention means memory in their explanations of how learning occurs. Four components are considered necessary for the modeling of behavior that one observes. These are attention, retention, motor reproduction, and motivation. Attention. For a behavior to be modeled, an individual must first pay attention to the model and especially to significant aspects of the modeled behavior. For example, if a child wants to learn how to play cricket, he should watch how a successful batsman holds a bat, distance between the legs, and so on. Paying attention to the irrelevant parts of the model will, of course, not be helpful. Retention. The second step in learning from a model is to remember the behavior that has been observed. People store both verbal representations such as step by step instructions and visual images of the behaviors they have seen. Motor reproduction. The third component in modeling is to replicate the behavior the model has demonstrated. When an individual lacks the ability to reproduce an observed behavior, perhaps because of physical immaturity, lack of strength, or disability, this third step obviously cannot occur. Reproduction of an observed behavior at the time it is observed is often helpful because it provides an opportunity for learners to receive feedback about how to improve their reproduction of that behavior. Motivation. The final component of modeling is to motivate it to exhibit the modeled behavior. An individual must want to demonstrate what has been learned. Although parents and teachers are often modeled for children, children do not model all the behavior they observe their parents and teachers perform. Children model behaviors only when they are motivated to do so. So there are different forms of learning. Gagne has identified 8 forms of learning in a hierarchical order. That is, first one, signal learning, stimulus response learning, chain learning, verbal associate learning, multiple discriminations, concept learning, learning of rules, and problem solving. What is signal learning? This is similar to Pavlov's classical conditioning discussed earlier. A child visits the doctor and experiences fear reaction upon hearing that he or she needs to take an injection or undergo surgery. Stimulus response learning. This is like the operant conditioning in which a particular stimulus becomes associated with a particular voluntary response. After seeing the teacher, that's the stimulus, the child says good morning. That's the response to the teacher. The teacher in turn smiles and says good morning to the child. Reinforcement. Chain learning. Chaining is the connection of a set of individuals, stimulus or responses in sequence. Example, learning to put the alphabets in order to make an appropriate word. Speaking is also a kind of chaining the words. Some sequences such as running on a radio or cleaning the blackboard, that is not running, that is tuning on a radio or cleaning the blackboard, are made up of motor responses. Other sequences are entirely verbal. For example, the greeting, how are you? So these associates the learning. Multiple discrimination. This means that an individual can make different and appropriate responses to different members of a particular collection of stimuli. Concept learning. One way the individual can learn to respond to collections of things is by distinguishing among them. That is discrimination learning. Another way, even more important as a human capability, is by putting things into a class or group and responding to any instance of the class as a member of that class. This latter learning, in a sense, seems just opposite to the first kind. This latter learning, which enables the individual to respond to things or event of a class in similar way, results in the kind of learning outcome called concept. Learning of rules. According to Gagne, a rule is an inferred capability that enables the individuals to respond to a class of stimulus situation with a class of performances. Such performance being predictable related to the stimuli by a specific class of relations. For example, an individual responds to a class of situations 4 plus 5, 8 plus 9, 5 plus 3 that are predictably related to the stimuli by a relation that may be expressed as independent of order. Problem solving. One of the most complex activities of human beings is problem solving. Rule learning is a precondition for problem solving. In problem solving, the most important part of the process takes place within the learner. Problem solving may be viewed as a process by which the learner discovers a combination of previously learned rules which can be applied to achieve a solution for a novel situation. Now, coming to the effective communication. Communication is a important process between two persons which take place in a very important way. So it cannot be denied that if there are do's and don'ts, the children cannot be hit or scolded. Instead of, they should be encouraged to participate in the communication skills. There are important thing is the information. What sort of information, what type of information is communicating. Now, the questioning is important element of effective communication. We need to use this skill with reference to modeling effective questioning when we need information. We have to encourage children to ask a range of relevant questions and ask questions that promote analysis and consider reasoned thought which can help them to express their ideas more logically in an original manner. Now let us take a look at the kind of questions that are often asked by children while just talking to them or even as a part of class activity. What are some domestic animals? In what way are they domesticated? What do we call them domestic? When did India become independent? What were some of the reasons for this struggle? What is this object called? How does it work? For what can it be used? For what else can it be used? So these are the questions which are posed by the students within a fraction of a second. Similarly, games like 20 questions etc. can be used to focus the child's attention on getting relevant needed information within the limits of a fixed number of questions. All such activities encourage analytical thought and help the child communicate his or her thoughts, feelings in clear, logical ways. Both teacher and parents play a vital role in the communication aspect. Communication includes a lot of things. We are focused on using a number of strategies such as providing a praise or enforcement, modeling, and questioning to help children communicate their ideas, feelings in more effective ways. These skills can be used ourselves in order to establish better interpersonal relationship with the children. And we can also guide children to express ideas, feelings. Children can also be helped to see things from other people's perspective by the use of same categories. Now, how to enhance learning skills? That's play a vital role in guiding the children. It is not uncommon to find some children who do not enjoy studies. They may have a lot of potential for learning but are not inspired to learn as they have no interest in it. Learning in the narrow sense may mean only passing examination, while in a wider perspective, it would generate curiosity and a desire for knowledge in the learner. The responsibility of the teachers and parents of elementary school children is hence to promote, strengthen this kind of learning and help children develop skills for achieving that purpose. Why the children always fails in learning, though they are having interest? That's what lack of attitude towards studies. Studying essentially requires a positive attitude towards school and learning. There are some students who fail to get interested in school and some students who spend much time trying to avoid tasks related to studies. There could be many reasons for this. It is not possible that education is not valued in the household. The child's environment is not stimulating enough. He or she is overworked at home. He is fatigued. He is ill or fatigued. He is unable to understand lessons in class. He is scared, has personal problems with the teacher, or has a poor self concept. Learning cannot take place if an individual does not see the need for it and has no desire to do it. This aspect need to be tackled right at the beginning. This may require a patient understanding of the reasons why a student does not have a positive attitude to learning. This process may involve identifying people who can help in the process of developing a desirable attitude in the child, example, parents. Making a list of activities the child likes doing and using these to generate curiosity in him to read. Example, a child may be interested in motor cars. He may be given books on motor cars to read. He can then be asked to answer questions on various details. He can prepare a game on learning through words in class for the same topic. He may be asked to narrate. Such exercises, when tried with the children, help in generating a positive attitude towards learning, and gradually he may develop an interest in his class work also. Now, how to manage this? Apart from having a positive attitude towards learning, another aspect that is a big influence is how we manage our time. Studying, you would agree, at times demands focused attention and exclusion or postponing of other increasing activities due to time limits. So, making a time chart is a skill that we shall attempt to develop in a process of learning. We have seen important attributes of a good learner is the ability to make good use of time. Making a time chart increases the learning process. The first step to manage time more efficiently is to make a time chart which assesses the current use and waste of time. It is important to distinguish between fixed, that is something that is done every day at the same time, and flexible, that is something that can be done at any time of the day. Activities in terms of the amount of time as well as the time of the day at which they have to be taken care of. List some activities which may be called fixed activities for the child and some flexible activities. Did you include school timings, personal hygiene course for the fixed and play recreation, the flexible? No, these are the things that time chart and maintaining the time, maintaining the attention span, these are all very important thing. The typical prime time. Let us see what is this typical prime time. We all are probably aware that there are times of maximum alertness which may vary from person to person. Learning may be easy for some students in the evening and for some students in the morning. It would then be advisable that if Seema, reading at evening, tackles the most difficult learning task in the evening. If Rohit is learning at morning, may do the same task in the morning. This may suggest to Rohit that he cannot learn in the evening. This is not true. No time schedule should be treated as shackles to one needs. Most of these are conditioned habits and not genetic. It should be also pointed out that these habits get formed due to environment. Example, silence or silenceless disturbance in the home in morning or evening and so on. Now let us see breaks or rest intervals are valuable. Working effectively involves the breaks without feeling guilty and rewards for productive work. List out activities which we can give during a break. After a span of learning which children could enjoy. Do you think children will look forward to a learning session after such a break? Well, a break may not always be possible in the school or at home. Can a learning session itself be made exciting? So these are all possible in the school setting and at the home also. Now, what are the skills of reading? Reading is perhaps the most vital single activity associated with the learning. While sometimes we may read primarily for pleasure and at the other times primarily for learning. There is one real contradiction in their two connotations. Learning can and should be fun. In the context of reading skills as a study skill, we would be helped if we could focus our attention on the reading style. This reading style will differ depending on the purpose for which we are reading. In the primary school, however, children are usually encouraged to pay attention to every word because each sentence brings new information that has to be processed and organized. Even in childhood, however, there are occasions when a child may spend speed read without reading every single part. Example, comic books where there is a supplementary pictorial materials. What does an explorer do before going as an expedition? You obviously get a general idea of that what the journey is most likely to be before he actually experiences the journey. Reading is most effective when you know what you are looking for. When you don't know this, your mind has no indication as to how to organize the information it receives. What we perceive is bound to be selective. However, frequently we do not provide the focus of reading before we actually start studying that material. Here is a passive. I mean, there may be passive or active learners. Now, if you take into the passive and active learners, reading with intention and without intention plays a vital role in this. In this regard, general to detailed reading is very important. If you skim through a chapter before reading it in detail, you will gain some idea of what the chapter contains, which will make your answer particular questions at every stage of your learning. And it is an important part of the process. An effective way of reading to understand is to skim the passage for general content, read the question, and read the chapter in detail, looking for all the information that relates to the questions as we read. Skimming is very important. Comprehension of the material brings a read improves when the reader gets a synoptic view of the text. The intricate details can be filled in the cognitive map or outline. A reader prepares for himself or herself through skimming. It is like taking a bird's eye view of the material to be read. Encouraging reading. How to encourage the reading? Asking different children on different days to read and share what they have read with the class. Giving a hint about what a book is all about and thus arousing their curiosity. Encouraging the use of library. At the elementary school level, it may be difficult for children to go and search in a big library and find the books they are looking for. Teachers can help selecting several books, say 22, 22, that have information on the topic for project that the class is working on. This can be kept readily available in a box in the classroom itself. Reading is an active process. Reading is a process which requires the reader's active participation. It involves the reader's previous knowledge and thought processes. Reading involves the use of words, that is vocabulary, comprehending what the material is all about, pace at which such comprehension is possible. How to develop vocabulary? One of the major problems children face in reading is the weakness in vocabulary cannot only be enriched by learning the meanings of the difficult words selected randomly. It is more important to understand the meaning of new words in the context of their usage. If a child learns by sensing the meaning of the word in the context where it has been used, it will improve his or her comprehension. Reading should encourage observation and experimentation. A process where the reader aims at comprehending what the writer says. In the olden times, when books were few, people relied more on their own power of observation and experimentation. While the skills of reading are available in the present day, it would also be worthwhile to encourage children in developing the skills of observation and experimentation. Memorizing. This is another important learning skill. This itself involves a lot of organization. There are many factors involved in deciding how well a task will be memorized. The intensity of a stimulus, its distinctness, frequency, and recency all affect retention and recall. The amount of attention, interest, motivation to remember, fatigue, understanding of the subject are other important factors affecting memory. Research has indicated that meaningful material is better retained than memory. Research has indicated that meaningful material is better retained than meaningless one. Poems better than nonsense syllables and stories better than figures in statistics. More effort also leads to better attention, as does a pleasant emotion associated with the task. Memorizing may be facilitated by the use of certain techniques which are repeat repeated recitation helps enhance learning than silent reading. Whole versus part learning. If the task to be learned is long, then it's more effective to divide it into parts and learn followed by a revision of a whole. Spaced and unspaced learning. Learning at one sitting, though useful for emergency, is not as effective as spaced learning. Cramming versus logical memory. Material understood and memorized in meaningful units is always retained longer than that which is learned through rote. Organization of knowledge. Information organized into related parts and subparts is retained longer. Poeming associations. Along with these techniques, what is equally important is a motivated to learn and a relaxed and rested mind. So there are methods for effectiveness of reading. Reading it at spaced intervals, reading it 100 times, reading it aloud, reading it with the comprehension, etc. Recall, that's also very important. Recall is essential for learning. Learning, as we have seen, follows these essential steps: understanding, memorizing, or retrieving material when required. There are some people who find this process easy. After understanding that material on the read, on their read, they use their skills of organizing and strong materials in their mind, which makes it convenient for them to recall it. Writing skills in the school system, what a child learns or an informed he or she has processed is measured by what the child writes. This writing comes through processing of learnt materials in the form of notes, diagrams, points, etc. What is done in the classroom teaching in the form of notes is often the crucial format of the material learnt. Vocabulary. When we speak of developing reading habit, we mention the value of recognizing and using new words. We also speak about using words in this context. What would be more valuable in terms of vocabulary use of long words or choosing the right word? Very often, children experiment the use of new words they pick up. Their usage may not be absolutely correct, but they can be guided into using the words correctly and gradually. Sentence structure. Children, however, may be encouraged to read stories to help them appropriate good language usage. Find out a few magazines books which would be of use to children in developing good language and experiment expression skills. Logical presentation of facts. The art of good writing is not only in rich vocabulary, structured sentence, but also in the logical presentation of facts. Spellings. Much emphasis is laid on spelling at the elementary school stage, specifically with the purpose that words are the basic tools for functioning in any language. Any handicap in language learning at usage may partially be because of poor spellings. Studying for examinations. As an individual teacher, one cannot still emphasize the long, broader learning skills on a year round basis while guiding the children how to plan and study in an organized manner so as to effectively answer questions even in the traditional examination years. So we have seen the so many things. It is a matter of great concern for the school teachers to find children incapable of coping with school demands and achieving academic success. For identifying weaknesses and planning strategies and to overcome them, the teachers and parents' participation is required. Effectiveness in the world of work to a large extent depends on work habits initiated which would be initiated through effectively study habits learned at school. Hope you understood the information. Enjoy the day. Let us fight against COVID-19 by protecting ourselves. Thank you.